Hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to another video, this time about portals. My name is Till and today I have Mark, aka Kiora, with me.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the, I can't remember what teaser name this is or teaser number this is. This is number
Third?
four?
Four? Yeah, I think it's
Four?
number four. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
four.
So we're going to be talking about some of the more strange concepts and interesting concepts that we're going to come up with for Project DEIOS. We're going to do kind of like a little bit like a backwards and forwards question style thing.
Yeah, right. So we've both prepped a few questions for each other and we're going to ask us those questions and hopefully they are interesting for you as well.
Yes.
Why don't you start?
Sure. Yeah. So I've got a question here. Uh, this whole teaser is about portals. So what does that mean? What do portals mean?
All right. Well, when we initially started with the city maps, region maps, and now that we've already known it because we've released it already with the world maps, we also thought about ways to link them together. So you've already seen the concept of those landmarks, where you can place a landmark and link that landmark to another map, which could be a city map, a battle map, or even another world map. And when we started to think about that, we realized that we don't necessarily need to do just the same worlds over and over again, but it would be awesome to have true portals that lead to other planes. So that was basically the concept behind the portal thing. You can place a landmark and make this landmark a portal into another world, possibly. And I think this also kind of tickled your excitement about what that could mean, basically. So, Kiara, what excites you most about this concept of having different planes?
So this was a very, very early on discussion that we had together when I was first brought onto the project, and the idea of creating all these amazing maps for worlds and regions and cities, and really being able to create your own sort of worlds and settings using all these maps and linking them all together and having all these aspects of, zooming in and out and doing all these like linking together and, a world within a world, and it's a purely kind of artistic vision for somebody, because maps are very visual. You can see scale and you can see all these amazing sort of mountains and forests and things. But if you look at a lot of fantasy settings, you look at a lot of books and novels and films, there's almost always some element of dimension hopping, where people are sort of going to other places. They're traveling and exploring and doing all these different things. Very prevalent in D&D, in the Marvel universes and, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they're dimension hopping and jumping through portals and doing all these different bits and pieces. And I realized pretty quickly that that was one of the things that was going to be really amazing if we could include that into Project DEIOS. So we're talking about things like the planes of existence in D&D. We're talking about sci-fi things. We're talking about all these other kinds of weird and wonderful worlds that you can sort of jump into and go and do things. And that adds an amazing element of mystery and fascinating sort of discovery and all the rest of it. So that's what really excites me about this. This is one of my primary sort of directions that I've been trying to push Project DEIOS towards further and further and further, so that we get all these amazing things going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in terms of going for that endeavor, I think I haven't seen that on other projects before.
No, and this is the amazing thing as well, because without going into so many sort of details about other things, this is going to be something that isn't out there at the moment. Project DEIOS on its own contains a lot of really cool features, and I think a lot of people love the biome tool. Is going to be really amazing. It's a very quick way of creating areas of a map. But the other aspect, which is going to be the future concepts of these planes and these other sort of environments and worlds, is going to be completely unique. It's something that isn't out there right now. So that's going to be really, really awesome.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And I think in terms of world builders, creators, having the
Mm,
opportunity to now start to visualize different worlds, different planes, is something that I'm personally excited to see. So I'm looking forward to have those features and to just expand on all those new biomes and new assets that might be in there in the future.
yeah, absolutely. So I guess I have a question for you now, which follows on from that. Can you mix all of these different biomes together?
Yes, I think you should be able to do so because I think having those biomes or those assets limited to world settings would kind of restrict your creativity. It's you have a lot more flexibility if you can just select a biome that probably is on the prime material plane, which was a forest, and you just select the forest and turn it into the flaming fire trees of the fire elemental plane.
I
Why
mean,
ever
one of
would
the
you do that? But I think it makes sense just to mix them up.
yes. One of the main, I guess, cliches or tropes when we talk about the Feywild is that often the Feywild will blend with the material world. It will sort
Yeah,
of push its way through, and it will come through the cracks, and you'll get elements of the Feywild in a forest or on a
yeah,
mountain or something where it will bleed out into the material plane. And that's something that by mixing the biome tools together and having these kind of things on a map, you can see, and that will be very sort of obvious in the
yeah.
future.
Just a simple example to stick with my flaming trees. I mean, if you're drawing a volcanic area and it might the volcano might erupt, then you might want to set your trees on fire there. So why not just use them from the fire elemental plane? And as you just said, you could have those elemental planes bleeding over into your prime material plane, which I
Yep.
think is just awesome. It's
Hmm.
great to have the opportunity. So I would I would strongly vote and I would strongly favor the fact that you can mix those biomes, and that's what we are heading for. Like that's
Yeah,
our goal.
and the assets as well,
And
which was yeah.
sure, and the assets as well.
Yeah. Another question for you, Till, then is can you then create your own biome? So using the biome tool itself, which is going to be a tool that you can quickly create these areas, can you create your own biomes?
So let's start with the simple answer. And the simple answer is you will definitely be able to upload your own assets. That means that if you have, I mean, you obviously most of the people who are going to use Project DEIOS are already world builders who might have assets from other tools or from artists that they have supported on Patreon. So they most likely will have an asset library that they want to reuse in Project DEIOS. So you will be able to upload your own assets and you will be able to use them in Project DEIOS for your own worlds or regions or cities. Now, when it comes to biomes, I think I need to expand a little bit on how those biomes work. Basically, a biome consists of a texture that is at the bottom of whatever the biome is that you're drawing. On top of that, you have the assets that define the outline of the biome. And then on top of that, you have kind of a shading shape that closes the biome with then sprinkled random assets on top of that. That's basically how we're approaching the biome system. So you will be definitely able to change the textures for the ground and for the cover. And if we make it possible, this is a big if because we need to test that thoroughly before we can release it. But I think it would be possible if we get clever definitions for those surrounding, like those border assets, you will be able to upload your own as well. And that will give you, apart from the fact that you can change the color and change the hue and the saturation, as we are already doing that in Dungeon Form, you would also be able to define your own custom biome assets as well. So yes, you can upload your own assets. yes, you will definitely be able to change hue, saturation, and color of biomes to modify them in their general appeal. And maybe can I create completely custom biomes by picking a biome system and modifying it with my personal custom assets? We hope to make that happen. We're not sure yet.
It's possible.
It would be, as always. I mean, people who are working with Dungeon Fog and people who are in our community already know Andy, our core developer, and he's like, he never says no to a new idea. He always just comes up with time schedules, and I'm
Yeah,
like, we have so many other things to do. Where can we fit that in? So it's not a question, can we do it, but when can we do it?
sure.
Yeah, right. Um, so I have a question for you now on my list. Are we going to limit those planes just to fantasy planes or fantasy settings?
So I guess the obvious answer to that is no. The concept of this portals teaser overall encompasses a bunch of different things. So we're talking a little bit about biomes and the expanded use of them, and we're talking about portals in the sense that you're definitely going to be able to visit other worlds, and the linking system is very, very prevalent in Project DEIOS. And the other thing we're talking about is obviously the planes aspect. But the planes, while that is a term that we're going to be using for all of these different biomes and environments and things that are very sort of strange and very sort of unique, uh, it isn't just going to be the planes of existence from D&D. We're not just talking about the Feywild. We're not just talking about the elemental planes of fire and water and all of these different sort of planier areas. We're also encompassing under the sort of planes title things like sci-fi worlds, skyscrapers and cyberpunk and things like this. We're talking about post-apocalyptic and all of these very interesting and very unique genres that we really want to create assets for. That will be created. We'll have biomes. They'll be able to use the biome tool to create these things. So you'll be able to then blend all these things together to create incredibly, incredibly amazing and unique worlds. So you can imagine a small region with all of these different bits and pieces that have been smushed together by somebody's imagination. Whoever comes up with an idea of mixing cyberpunk with Feywild, you can have these amazing sort of meldings of
Yeah,
ideas.
yeah. And also, I mean, that the experience we had with Dungeon Fog over the past year was that we can constantly create new assets or new asset sets. So that's what we did with our monthly prop packs and our annual big prop packs and new setting packs. So having a community that is giving feedback and is requesting new things is just awesome. It's just great because we can do we can do a voting where people can decide if they need a medieval dynasty Chinese biome or asset pack before a Viking setting or a cyberpunk setting. So
Sure.
it's up to the community to give feedback on that, and we can rather easily react to those requests because we are going to continue this monthly prop pack system and this annual setting system.
I think
So
another thing that's worth mentioning is that even though Project Deus at the moment in its current form has a baseline of assets and biomes that we really think are the critical elements of a map, a world map or region map and city maps. These are very sort of critical, this baseline. There are still many areas and many assets and biomes that could be included into this planes category that are going to be done in the future. So you mentioned Asian and Viking and all of these kinds of different cultures, different areas and things like that. So that's definitely, so it's not just different genres, it's not just planes, it encompasses other things as well, other environments.
Absolutely. Just to bring it out, because we haven't talked about this yet, it always also involves something like we have the region assets, which kind of are the world assets as well. We're going to test the waters here if they can be the same or if they have to be adjusted for the world scale. But it also involves the city maps. Like if we're doing a Viking setting for world maps, we definitely are going to do a Viking setting for the cities as well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we might not be that fast as we have been on the Dungeon Fog side. So it might not be a 1 month, one setting thing, but we have the means and the possibility to go there and release continuously new environmental things. Might that be houses or buildings or biomes or assets for world maps or landmarks? So I'm pretty excited about the possibilities that open up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last question. I think we're already we're talking. We could
Yeah, I
go on.
know. This is going well.
Yeah, but let's finish this up with one last
Sure.
question. When you think about all the planes and all the things that might be there, what plane would you like to do the first? Like, what is the one thing that would you like to see as the first new plane that we're releasing?
So I think my answer for that is obvious on the teaser page. There's a small little, you'll be able to see the piece of artwork just below this video or above this video or wherever. And when we were originally doing the concept or talking about the concept for Project DEIOS and what we could do with this planes concept, the Feywild was the first one on our lists. That was on the lists for Till, for me. World Anvil guy as well, the great GM. So this is a planar planes thing that I think conceptually and visually is incredibly interesting and incredibly exciting to have visible on a world map, on a region map, maybe even a few city assets as well to mix in with all these other bits and pieces. So there's going to be a real sort of amazing visual element, pinks and greens and really cool ideas that we're going to bring in to the project through the Feywild, which is the pretty much our first go-to. Once Project DEIOS is revealed in full and everything comes out, we're all like, this is Project DEIOS. We're then going to be saying to people, hey, and by the way, if you really love Project DEIOS, here's the Feywild. Here's what we're going to be doing in the future, and that's really, really exciting. Now, I'm going to put a pin in that and say that I was watching the E3 conference with for Xbox, and they released the Cyberpunk trailer with
Yeah,
Keanu.
yeah.
And if you're not a big gamer, that might not mean much, but seeing the concept for their cyberpunk sci-fi world was very, very interesting to me. So I'm going to sneakily try and push a little bit of sci-fi into Project DEIOS in the future.
That's absolutely fine. We just did in February, I think we released the cyberpunk settings. So,
Yeah,
and I would love to see a cyberpunk world map. It would just be absolutely, absolutely new, absolutely fantastic,
exactly. Yeah,
and probably pretty challenging. So I
yeah,
think that another reason why we went for the Feywild is because it is visually extremely intense and beautiful, but it is also something where we can test waters with new planar systems, where we can say, okay, we don't have to rework all biomes just for that. We can use the existing biomes and possibly expand one or two new biomes into that just fit the Feywild instead of going full madman and go for something that requests a complete overhaul of all new biome systems that might be
yes.
involved.
We
And
were
we
talking
are
about,
learning the fact.
yes,
Pardon?
'cause, I was going to say, when Till's talking about biomes in the sense of the biome being used as a thing, he's talking about the system itself, the
Yeah,
coding, the ability to actually create a biome. Because creating a biome is a tool, And we have a couple of different biomes, like the way they work, the way they're coded at the moment for the baseline. But creating a different sort of coding element to a biome is probably a little bit more work than you might expect.
Exactly. Just as a simple example, having a forest biome behaves completely different to a hill or a mountain biome.
Yes.
Now, that's just on the prime material plane. Things can get very fast, very crazy. You think of
Weird.
forest or a mountain or a hill biome in the Feywild or in the plains of fire, in the plains of earth or the air elemental planes. So
Yes.
we were deciding to stick with that and start with that, and then have a learning curve we can then improve from there on.
But finally, I think that if this kind of thing is really exciting to you, if you're really pumped for Project DEIOS and you really love the idea of the baseline, and then you're looking at this video and you're looking at this teaser and you're going, oh, this is even more amazing, then the Feywild is just the start of what we have in mind for what we want to do. We've been talking a little bit about all these other genres, but the Feywild is the start. It's not just the Feywild. But we're not going to reveal our plans or our list of what we want to do in full, because we're going to save that for later.
Exactly. At least not yet, right? But I think, yeah, we are through. That was everything
That's all our questions.
we wanted to talk about. I think it was very interesting. I love to hear you talk about art. This is just beautiful. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah, well, we've got loads of little teasery little reveals going on in this little video, and this teaser is obviously another aspect of Project DEIOS, because this is a big boy.
It is, and I think we did pretty well, because I was always listening on accidental hints or reveals that I need to bleep out afterwards. But we did a great job. I think there's no bleeping involved.
We've been good. We've been good.
Like what we see. If you have any questions, any comments, don't forget to join us on Discord. We have a huge Discord community by now who are always discussing the reveals. They have already started a wish list. So things are rolling in with, I would like to see this, I would like to see that. If you want to add to that, just
Terrible.
Leave out
recording a video.
Sorry. If you want to add to that, join us on Discord. You will find the link somewhere below, possibly. Comment on the YouTube video. Mark and I will look at there and respond. And if you want to know what's next, because we haven't finished revealing stuff,
a few more things.
Keep an eye out for the next hint. Solve the next riddle. You did a good job solving this one, because this one was the first hard riddle that we've posed to you. It's not getting easier, but look for the next riddle, and see you soon. Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Kiara, thank you for having me. Thank you for having the chat here. Bye.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.